He walked into the bakery to order a cake for another woman's wedding. He never expected to find his ex-wife behind the counter, barefoot, flour-dusted, and very, very pregnant. Minho didn't do ordinary things. He didn't stand in lines. He didn't carry cash. He didn't walk into small neighborhood bakeries on rainy Tuesday mornings with his collar turned up and his jaw tight, like he was carrying the weight of a country on his shoulders. And yet, here he was. His driver had parked half a block away. His two bodyguards stood near the entrance pretending to check their phones. The bakery was called Sugar and Soul, a small, warm place tucked between a laundromat and a convenience store in a part of Seoul that people like Minho had no business visiting. He'd chosen it himself. That was the strange part. But his assistant had sent him a list of the city's top wedding cake suppliers. 5-star patisseries in Gangnam, European-trained chocolatiers in Itaewon. But something about this place had caught his eye when his car passed it 3 days ago. A hand-painted sign, yellow curtains in the window, a chalkboard outside that read, "Made with real butter and zero lies." He hadn't smiled in 10 months, but something tugged at the corner of his mouth. Minho was 41 days away from marrying Yoon Ji-soo, a match his organization had arranged, quiet and strategic, like everything in his life. Ji-soo was elegant, suitable, safe. He didn't love her. He hadn't loved anyone since Erica. He pushed the thought down the way he always did, like hard and fast like a blade into a sheath, and reached for the bakery door. The bell above it chimed, and the scent of brown sugar and vanilla hit him like a memory he wasn't ready for. Before we go further, do you think a man like Minho deserves a second chance at love? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you're new here, subscribe. You won't want to miss where this goes. The woman behind the counter had her back to him. She was humming. Low and soft, something soulful that didn't belong in Seoul, but somehow fit perfectly inside this warm little bakery. Her hair was wrapped in a yellow headscarf. Her apron strings were tied loosely, and because they had to be, because she was heavily pregnant. 8 months, maybe more. The kind of pregnant that made every movement deliberate, every step a negotiation. Minho's feet stopped working. She reached up to adjust something on the shelf. And the motion turned her sideways, and that's when his blood ran cold. He knew that profile. He had memorized that profile standing on a rooftop in Busan while she laughed at something ridiculous, and he thought, this woman will ruin me. He'd been right. Erica! The word came out before he could stop it. Barely a whisper, barely anything, but she heard it. She went completely still. The humming died. Her hand gripped the shelf. Slowly, painfully slowly, she turned around, and Minho felt the floor dissolve beneath him. It was her. 10 months older in the eyes, fuller in the face, exhaustion living behind her gaze, but it was her. Erica, his ex-wife, the woman he'd signed divorce papers on without reading them, because reading them would have meant accepting they were real. Her eyes found his, and for 3 seconds, the bakery ceased to exist. Then her gaze dropped, involuntarily, instinctively, to her own stomach, and back up to his face. No, she whispered. Not to him, to herself, like a prayer that had arrived too late. Minho's eyes stayed on her belly. His jaw tightened. Whose baby is that, Erica? The silence that followed was the loudest thing he'd ever heard. You need to leave. Erica's voice was steady. Impressively steady for a woman whose hands were shaking so hard, she knocked a wooden spoon off the counter. This is my place of business, Minho. You don't get to walk in here and... Whose baby? His voice was quiet. That was the dangerous kind. The kind his enemies knew to fear. That is none of your business. We were married. Were. She met his eyes. Past tense. You made sure of that. Minho stepped closer. His bodyguard shifted near the entrance. Erica noticed and lifted her chin. That stubborn, beautiful lift he remembered every time he tried to forget her. Don't, she said. Don't bring your world in here. I have customers. The bakery is empty, Erica. It won't be for long, so please. Her voice cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. Please go. He didn't move. How far along are you? Min Ho? How far along? She exhaled sharply. 8 months. He did the math instantly. The way he always calculated everything. Exits, threats, odds. 8 months. Their divorce was finalized 10 months ago, which meant she was pregnant within weeks of leaving. His chest tightened like a vice. Is there someone? He asked. Are you with someone? Erica turned away, busying herself with unnecessary tasks. Goodbye. Min Ho. Erica, I said goodbye. The bell above the door chimed as a real customer entered. An elderly woman with a shopping trolley. Erica's face transformed instantly. Warm smile, steady hands, professional. Practiced, protected. Min Ho stood there one more moment, then walked out. But he didn't leave. He stood on the pavement in the rain, staring at the yellow curtains. Something wasn't adding up. He should have driven away. Instead, Min Ho was still standing across the street 40 minutes later when the sky cracked open. Seoul's spring rain didn't politely drizzle. It arrived like an argument, sudden, loud, and impossible to ignore. Within seconds, the street was a river. His bodyguard scrambled. His driver pulled the car around. And through the bakery window, Min Ho watched Erica wince. Not from the rain, from something else. She gripped the counter with both hands, bent slightly forward, and breathed through it. Whatever it was. The elderly customer hovered helplessly. Erica waved her off with a forced smile. Min Ho was through the door before he made the decision to move. What happened? He was behind the counter in 3 strides. His bodyguard started to follow. Stay outside. The guard froze. I'm fine. Erica straightened. Don't touch me. You were doubled over. Braxton Hicks' false contractions. Very normal, very none of your business. She exhaled slowly. Why are you still here? I don't know, he said honestly. That seemed to unsettle her more than anything else he could have said. The elderly customer quietly gathered her pastry box and slipped out. The rain hammered the windows. The bakery felt suddenly very small, very warm, and very full of everything they weren't saying. Erica lowered herself carefully onto a stool behind the counter. Min Ho didn't ask permission. He pulled a chair from a nearby table, turned it around, and sat across from her. You're still as stubborn as you are impossible, she muttered. And you're still running from things instead of facing them. Her eyes snapped to his. Don't. I'm not leaving until I know you're okay. I don't need your protection anymore, Min Ho. I built a whole life specifically so I wouldn't. The rain intensified. Neither of them moved. It started with a box. Erica needed something from the storage shelf. Baby shower decorations for a client order, she said, not meeting his eyes. Min Ho reached it before she could attempt the stretch, and when he pulled it down, a small envelope fell from between the boxes and hit the floor between them. He picked it up. Her face changed. Give me that. But he'd already seen the hospital logo and his name, Kang Min Ho, typed on the front. Unopened. Dated 9 months ago. Erica. His voice was barely sound. It's nothing. My name is on a hospital envelope dated 9 months ago. 1 month before our divorce was even finalized. He looked up. What is this? Silence. The baby, he said slowly, is mine. She didn't deny it. That was its own kind of answer. Why? The word came from somewhere raw in him. Why didn't you tell me? Erica looked at the rain-streaked window. When she spoke, her voice was hollow with exhaustion. The kind that comes from carrying something too heavy, alone for too long. Because the night I found out I was pregnant, your mother called me. She paused. She said if I told you, she would have me deported. She said I was an embarrassment to the Kang name. A foreign woman with no connections, no status. Her jaw tightened. She said your organization would never respect a leader with a Black American wife and a mixed baby. Minho was very still, the kind of still that preceded destruction. She told me you'd already chosen Jisoo. Erica finally looked at him. Was she lying? He couldn't answer fast enough, and Erica saw it. That's what I thought, she whispered. The rain softened to a hush. Minho sat with Erica's words pressing down on him like a physical weight. He wanted to defend himself. He found he couldn't. Not cleanly, not honestly. Jisoo was arranged, he said finally. I never chose her. You never unchose her either. He had no answer for that. Erica pushed herself up slowly, moving to the back kitchen. After a pause, Minho followed. She didn't tell him to leave. She put the kettle on, an old habit. She'd always made tea when she didn't know what else to do with her hands. He used to tease her about it. You make tea the way other people make excuses, he'd said once, laughing. She'd thrown a dish towel at him. He almost said it now. Stopped himself. What were you going to name her? He asked instead. Erica's hand paused on the kettle. How did you know it's a girl? I didn't. His voice was quiet. I do now. Something passed across her face. Not quite a smile, something more fragile. Nara, she said softly. It means my country in Korean, and it sounds like a name my mother would love. She paused. I wanted her to belong to both worlds. Minho felt something split open in his chest. He looked at Erica, really looked at her. The tiredness, the courage, the stubbornness that had always made him feel simultaneously insane and completely alive. I'm sorry, he said. The first time in 10 months he'd said those words and meant every syllable. Erica poured 2 cups of tea, slid one toward him. Their fingers didn't touch, but it was the closest they'd been in months. Have you ever had to choose between what's easy and what's right? Tell us in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already. The ending of this story will stay with you. His phone rang. He should have silenced it. He thought he had. But it rang again, and the name on the screen reflected in the dark window glass between them. Jisoo Erica saw it. The warmth drained from the room like water from a cracked bowl. You're still engaged. Her voice was flat. It's complicated. Don't. She stepped back. Don't say it's complicated to a woman who is 8 months pregnant, alone, and just told you your own mother threatened her into silence. Erica, let me explain. The wedding cake? She laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound. You came here to order a wedding cake. Her wedding cake. She pressed her hand to her sternum like she was holding herself together. You came into my bakery to order a cake for the woman your mother replaced me with. I didn't know this was your bakery. Does it matter? Her eyes were blazing now. You're still marrying her, Minho. You're standing in my kitchen pretending you care, pretending you're sorry, while that woman is calling your phone with a ring emoji. I haven't loved Jisoo a single day. But you'll marry her anyway. Because that's what you do. You let people make your choices for you and then show up at other people's bakeries looking tragic about it. Her voice broke. I needed you 10 months ago. I needed you 9 months ago when I found out I was carrying your child alone in a hospital. Where were you? Minho's jaw worked. I was wrong, he said. Every single time, I was wrong. Being wrong doesn't fix anything. Tears tracked down her face silently. I want you to leave, and this time, don't come back. Minho sat in the back seat of his car for a long time. His phone had 42 notifications. Jisoo, his mother, his consigliere, the wedding planner. He stared at the yellow curtains of the bakery until they blurred. He thought about his father, the original Kang boss, who had once told him, power is just fear wearing an expensive suit. Minho had built his entire life on that philosophy. Fear kept people in line. Fear kept him safe. Fear had also cost him the only woman who had ever looked at him like he was more than what he controlled. He picked up his phone, not to call Jisoo, not to call his mother. He called his most trusted lieutenant. Cancel the wedding. Silence on the other end. Sir, cancel it. Release a statement. Say irreconcilable differences, whatever they need to hear. He paused. And get me everything on what my mother said to Erica 10 months ago. Every conversation, every threat. I want it all documented. That could destabilize the alliance with the Yoon family. I know. Minho looked at the bakery window. Do it anyway. He stepped out of the car, his bodyguard moved to follow. Minho held up one hand. Alone. He stood outside Sugar and Soul in the thin Seoul rain, his hand raised to knock, and stopped. She'd asked him to leave. She'd been asking him to show up for months. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Softer. Not like a man who commanded rooms, like a man who understood he was no longer owed entry. Erica. His voice was low. I canceled the wedding. I know you don't believe me. I know I have no right to ask you for anything. He pressed his palm flat against the door. But I'm not leaving, not this time. A long silence. Then the sound of a lock turning. She didn't open the door all the way. Just enough. Her eyes were swollen. Her headscarf had come loose. She looked exhausted and furious and heartbreakingly beautiful. You canceled the wedding, she said, not a question. An hour ago. Your mother will wage war. She already has. He almost smiled. I've survived worse. Erica searched his face the way she used to, looking for the lie, the exit, the version of him that would disappoint her. He let her look. He didn't arrange his expression into anything more convenient than the truth. I missed everything, he said quietly. The first ultrasound, the first kick. Every night you spent alone in this city carrying our daughter. His voice dropped. I can't get that back. I know that. No, she agreed. You can't. But I'm asking, Erica, not demanding, not arranging. I'm standing here in the rain asking you to let me be here for the rest of it. Her hand rested on her stomach. Instinctive, protective. She deserves her father, Erica said finally, almost to herself. So do you, Minho said. Deserve someone who actually shows up. The silence stretched. Then Erica stepped back and opened the door fully. He walked in. The bakery was quiet, warm, smelling of vanilla and brown sugar and something that felt alarmingly like home. Minho stood in the middle of it, a man who ran a criminal empire who had never once asked for forgiveness, and felt completely undone. Erica took his hand and pressed it gently against her stomach. And Nara kicked. Hard, deliberate, like she'd been waiting. Minho made a sound he hadn't made in 10 months. Something between a laugh and a sob. Erica watched his face crack open, really open, and felt the last wall she'd built begin to crumble. Hi, he whispered, to his daughter. I'm sorry I'm late. 6 weeks later, Minho stood beside Erica in the delivery room. Not as a boss, not as a strategist, just as a man holding the hand of the woman he should never have let go. When Nara came into the world, she cried loud and indignant, announcing herself to everyone. Minho counted her fingers. Erica laughed through her tears. And on the small whiteboard outside the room, in Minho's careful handwriting, was a single name. Kang Nara, meaning light. Because after everything, the silence, the distance, the pride, the fear, that's exactly what she was. If this story moved you, if you've ever had to fight your way back to someone worth fighting for, drop a heart in the comments and tell us what you think Erica should do next. Subscribe so you never miss a story. Because the best ones, they're just getting started.